What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down Matthew Stafford and his throwing mechanics, guys. Today we're going to talk about how to change up your arm angle and throw a little bit sidearm, having to throw around a defender into a tight window. We're going to talk about how to get more velocity and more distance on your deep throws, and we're going to talk about how you can be a more accurate passer by setting your feet quick and throwing a little bit off platform. And guys, if you're a quarterback and you want to get better at reading coverages, understanding defenses, knowing what the defense is going to do before they do it, I think that's the most important part of the quarterback position. Check out that link in the description that says learn how to read defenses. Guys, we break down film just like how I break down throw mechanics, but it's all IQ, talking about how to look, what to look for in coverages, how to read coverages. Check out that link in the description. I think it will benefit a lot of quarterbacks, guys. 100 plus breakdowns, 4 new every week. Let's get started in this video. So we're going to talk about how to change up this arm angle here, okay? So when you have to change up an arm angle, it's a situation just like this. There's a guy up in this throwing lane, whether he might be jumping, whether he might be or he might just be standing in your way, and we got to change up my arm angle to throw this thing around the defender, right? You guys seen that movie where maybe like it's like you curve the bullet, right? I think it's called Wanted. That's kind of like what you want to think of it. That's what I tell my quarterbacks. You want to curve the bullet. You want to curve the throw and trust your hands, because your hands are everything when you let go of this ball and you change up that arm angle, okay? So you see how Stafford, when he's here, his feet are going to the left. So this is like an off-platform throw. This is life in the NFL. Life in the NFL is not having your feet set and still being able to make a throw and throwing only with your upper half, right? So when my feet aren't set, it's very important that I close this front shoulder. So you see how here, I know it's kind of tough, but you see how much he's rotating here. And to go sidearm, he doesn't swing that shoulder out and lean his head out to change up the angle, right? And see, the thing is, too, is he's not coming completely sidearm around this thing. It's just not that normal 90-degree arm slot, right? He's changing up his arm slot, changing up his angle. So when I want to change up my throwing angle, I want to make sure that I stay square with my upper half, and I manually do it and trust your hands. That's the main key on this, right? If your feet aren't set, you got to be able to make sure, and you got to understand, too, if you maintain a strong base here, you could still drive from this back leg, get this front leg down, and have some momentum. It's just your shoulders and your hands are going to be the more important part, okay? You're still going to be able to make this throw just a little bit more off platform, right? So we've got to make sure I close my shoulders, and I'm using all upper half to rotate through, right? So now, completely changing up my arm angle, but his head stays level, his chin stays in the same spot, and his shoulders and his hips are in a complete square. Those are the two main keys there, because if you keep your upper half square, it's just wherever you let that wrist flick go. If you close that shoulder, and you see again, trust in his hands, let that wrist flick go right in this window to almost curve this bullet all the way around. There's a great ball here by Stafford, and you see what a tight window he's able to get this thing into, right? You look at it again from another angle, right? You look at his hand here, just trusting your hand, trust that wrist flick, let your hands fly. It's almost like you're throwing at a dartboard, right? When you change up arm angle, when you're throwing on the run, you're throwing off platform, you got to make sure that your shoulders bail you out for torque, right? Especially if your feet aren't set, your shoulders are going to bail you out for torque. You let that wrist flick go right at the target, trust your hands, let this ball fly. It's a great job here by Stafford. That's a really big time throw. Let's watch this thing again, full speed. So he's here, changes up that arm angle, trust your hands, let that ball fly, close your shoulders, especially when you don't have your feet set. This is a great job here, threading the needle, getting this thing into a tight window. Okay, so now this one kind of comes up a little bit quick here, but we're going to be looking on throwing with a little bit of accuracy when you're throwing downfield, throwing this deep ball, okay? So now, let me try to find this clip here. So comes up quick. Yeah, here we go. So when we're throwing a deep ball, fellas, I think the main thing is, or not even necessarily a deep ball, maybe just to throw with some touch. We want to try to have the same efficient foot strike, right? The only thing that I maybe want to change is my front shoulder arc, depending on the throw, and where I let go of this ball, my wrist flick. Again, trusting my hands. And you see how his wrist flick up is up a little bit higher this time, but he's still able to maintain that square position with his upper half. That's the key here, fellas. So we want to make sure that I'm shifting my weight. I hate that term weight transfer, because it makes it seem like you got to have all this weight on your back leg and then you transfer it to your front leg. I just think of it as a weight shift. You're shifting that weight to that front leg. It's just a quick front stride. And how I do that is you see with his shin angle here to 45 quarterbacks, when we want to get more push and we want to get that front leg down, I want to be able to push to get it down, and we got to have the correct sequence, right? So the sequence is you want that front foot in the ground as your front shoulder's closed, as you're almost getting into this backstroke. So when you're here, right, his front foot's in the ground, his front shoulder's closed. Now what's going to bring bring this ball up, it's going to be his hip drive, right? And my hip drive doesn't get there if I'm not pushing off the inside arch and ripping my hips around and being a rotational athlete. But at the same time, I got to keep this front shoulder nice and square to maintain torque. So you see how he pushes here, gets the front foot down, and you see how much external rotation, that's what everybody likes to call it, or just hip drive he has rotating through. His hips are shooting through, and the whole time his shoulders are maintaining square. You guys got to understand that it's not your shoulders that make the throw, right? A lot of people, because they lack hip drive and we're a rotational athlete, they know they got to rotate the ball. They're not just going to leave their back foot here and try to throw this thing without bringing their back foot through. They resort to leaning out of there with their shoulders and with their elbow because they don't have enough hip drive coming around here. What they'll do is their front hip will kind of stay locked, and then, okay, well, I got to get the ball through somehow, and they'll bring this thing here. They'll bring this elbow. They'll swing the elbow way down, like to their hip almost, lean out of there with their head, and that'll push the ball out wide. But you see, Stafford does a great job, and he has such a clean release point because, again, keeps his head in the same spot. He stays relatively square. That front elbow doesn't dip all the way down to his hip, right? He keeps that thing somewhere by his collarbone, right? I usually say somewhere by your, like you're eating a sandwich, holding it in front of your face, but somewhere by your collarbone, by your chest. That's good enough. Just make sure on the release point, I am square. I'm square on that release point. I'm trusting my hands. My follow through and I'm trying to throw with some touch is like I'm shooting a free throw, trusting my hands to let this thing go. And you see when he strikes the ground here, he's got a slight bend to that front knee because all the ground force that I produce from that back leg, all that push, will be lost if I take this leg and I extend out and I pop straight up, or maybe I go heel toe and I strike the ground. So if you could push, get your toes down, keep a bend to that knee, and be able to rotate through with your hips, keep your shoulders square, we're going to have velocity on that ball. That's how you could throw it a little bit more distance, get a little bit more velocity, right? And something that you guys could do to improve that, because, right, mechanics will take you a long ways, right? But you always want to be able to get a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. What goes into arm strength is leg drive, core strength, and being able to rotate with your hips. And if you guys want some exercises, quarterbacks, or a workout plan for that, just leave in the comments. Just say, hey, can I get information on that workout plan, and I'll shoot you guys a link over, okay? So just make sure that that's what we're focused on improving. Leg drive, hip drive, core drive, those are the most important things, along with mechanics. Let's watch this thing real quick here. I know it comes up fast. Great smooth throw by Stafford right over the top. So now this throw we're going to be looking at here, he's going to be pulling up, and this is kind of a different angle of the last throw here. So this is kind of the same throw that we were just talking about, but this is the play leading up to it, right? And I just want to talk about how what we can work on in the off season in terms of pulling up on the run and being able to make these throws. So what a lot of people love to do is when they're working drill work, right? The center will be here, quarterback will be here. They'll just work a sprint out and they'll always throw on the run, right? But what you could do is you could either have the guy who's standing here catching for you, either hold up an X or flash his hands. And if he flashes his hands, what you're going to do is just stay on the run and throw. And if he holds up an X, you're going to do exactly what Stafford does here and pull up on the run, because you see he's getting pressure over the top. He can't just stay on the run because he'll run into it. I pull up right here. I step up into this window and throw, right? Now, this is probably a design kind of like bootleg step up in the pocket here. But this is a great job being able to put the brakes on, right? Because if we could put the brakes on and I could play through this huge window here, that's such an advantage for quarterbacks. Right now, again, this is a design play for this. This is a design play for him to kind of bootleg out, pull up, take one hitch, and get the ball out. But again, quarterbacks, we got to be able to work this situation on our own, because even on basic sprint out plays where I'm coming out, I could have a guy coming top shoulder, and I got to put the brakes on and pull up one hitch, get this ball out. So again, you see when Stafford pulls up here, where does he get immediately? He gets to that nice strong base, sits his butt down, and drives from that back leg, able to get that front foot down to a bend, right? We talked about the follow through. We talked about getting that wrist flick up in the air, and you see how his hips are able to come through and how stable his front leg is. You see how his front leg is just to the inside of his target. That allows you to get a little bit more power on this ball, a little bit more torque, and really drive with your hips. Some people think your hips are closed off. That's not the case. Your front foot stride. You're not opening up your foot to get your hips to the target. That's a common mistake. You want to get the front foot down efficiently. You want to get it fast to have the correct sequence or the kinematic sequence or whatever all the people who try to sound smart say. Just get the front foot down. My shoulders are back, working on that sequence to let my hips shoot through and just drive this ball. Okay, let's watch this thing one more time, full speed. So he's coming out here. Coming top shoulder, make sure I'm able to put the brakes on. I work these situations with my drill work, keep a nice bend to that front leg. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Again, if you're a quarterback and you want to get better at reading coverages, understanding defenses, knowing what a defense is going to do and how to beat it, the play concepts to beat it, check out that link in the description that says how to read defenses. And guys, if you have any questions, please leave those in the comments. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I'll see you guys next time. You guys have a happy 4th of July.